The CCTV feeds of animals, let's say cows, hens, pigs, whatsoever, to provide valuable insights via house management automation, behavior analysis, disease estimation, weight measurement, egg examination, fish detection, etc. Or if I come to wildlife, let's say climate change, natural calamities, habitat change, poaching, or there are many factors which actually lead to mass extinction of various species. So talking about that, protecting threatened wildlife population has become a daunting challenge when it comes to NGO or let's say government. So thankfully, artificial intelligence developers are starting to introduce technology that can support conservation effort. If I particularly want to emphasize, then data annotation would be the right phrase. So moving forward, here our panelist intends to discuss on the same. And the session will be chaired by Mr. Praveen Mokkapati. He is the Deputy Director, NASSCOM COE. Alumnus of IIM Bangalore and Texas A&M, Praveen has 15 years of vast experience of business and research experience across functions such as engineering, marketing, sales, business development, and general management across the United States, Europe, India, and Southeast Asia. The speakers we have in this session are Mr. Aakash Gupta, CEO and founder, Think Evolve Consultancy. Aakash Gupta, an alumnus of IIM Indore, is CEO and co-founder of Think Evolve Consultancy, which enables startups and enterprises to make data-driven business decisions. Aakash was part of the leadership team and VP Data Science at Elvish. He was instrumental in setting up the COE in AI, ML, and Envisionist data science-based products across different industry verticals. And we are having another panelist as Mr. Souvik Debnath. Souvik Debnath has 20 plus years of experience primarily in the agriculture and financial service sectors, leading various initiatives through information technology. He is co-founder, CTO, and head of innovation at Blue Cocoon Digital. He leads Blue Cocoon Digital in delivering computer vision-based innovative solutions to check quality of seed, soil, and plant health. So can we give a round of applause and welcome our chair and panelists for this session, which would be having the topic computer vision application in wildlife conservation and agriculture. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Praveen, as you know, and I think today we'll be having additional 5 minutes thanks to the earlier panel. A topic like AI should get more time, and as you have also seen from the earlier panel, there's a lot of conversation around how AI is impacting the industrial sector. And it's not just the industrial sector, but even beyond lots of different sectors. Clearly see the all-pervasiveness of artificial intelligence. What is important in the context of today's panel is to really look at some, let's say, headwinds that we see. One of the headwinds that I would want to talk about is population growth. And 15th of November, not too far away from now, a month ago, little less than a month ago, is when the world population touched 8 billion. That's a big number, isn't it? And as a result, what happens is there's an increased demand for food, and the pressure on the agricultural systems automatically goes up. And there are these other factors at play, macroeconomic conditions, including the Ukraine war and a bunch of other things, put a lot of pressure on the agriculture sector. And it's important to take cognizance of that. The other aspect which we should be thinking about, and I think there's a lot of conversation around that, is on climate change. How many of you knew that March of last year was the hottest March since 1901 in India and Pakistan? Some of you are nodding, a lot of people are not nodding, which just says that, hey, we have been through this, but it's just not so cognizant in our subconsciousness. When we should be very mindful of that, it has several implications. We see there is climate change can cause this pressure on biodiversity, can impact how wildlife and their behaviors get modified as a result of increasing climate change. What is also important to understand is the interconnectedness of population growth and climate change. And it's important to understand that these relationships are extremely strong. For instance, I was at a forest reserve in one of the states, which erstwhile had a lot of tiger population. And due to urbanization, a lot of highways got built, train tracks being laid, and tigers otherwise would have crossed over from that forest reserve to the neighboring forest reserve. But now they don't have that chance. They do, but at the risk of their lives. And this is something that we need to be cognizant about. And this is something which a lot of officials in the government are thinking about. And I think for all of us in the private sector as well, this presents a great opportunity to solve for problems which we have created upon us. So I think from an AI point of view, we've heard in the earlier panel as well, there is a strong interplay of AI with other emerging technologies like blockchain, which you heard, IoT, drones is also something which is very significant in the context of these two sectors, agri and forests/wildlife. And I think from the kind of development that we're seeing in the context of AI, I think there's a lot of potential for this technology to impact both sectors. Earlier this year, in the context of generative AI, I don't know how many of you have heard about DALL-E and the second variant of DALL-E and the kind of amazing artwork it can generate just with natural language text. That's one instance. And then there is ChatGPT, which is currently the rage a lot of people. In fact, this week I had 4 different use cases for ChatGPT. In case you've not heard or tried ChatGPT, I would strongly encourage all of you to explore that. A little bit of digression, my apologies, but we have 2 experts, who will share their insights and their experiences in the context of agriculture, the applications of AI in agriculture, as well as in forests and wildlife. I think what we will delve into would be the kind of opportunities that we see. Some of them, I think, with response to one of the questions that happened in the previous panel, you've heard about what kind of opportunities exist, and I think I would invite one of the speakers, one of the panelists to talk about that. And same goes with forests and wildlife, and we'll talk about the impediments, the kind of roadblocks that we see with adopting AI, aspects related to human-centered design that was also touched upon in the previous discussion, because it's important to design technology keeping in mind the farmer or the business owners in mind, or in the context of forests and wildlife, the forest officials who may not necessarily know what AI is or how to operate AI, but they are looking at the imperatives that are impacting their stakeholders, and it's important to have that in mind. Also, perhaps there could be other ways in which we can alleviate these roadblocks. How can we make this easier? How could we lower the barriers to adoption of AI? And then if there is time, we'll look at ESG considerations, things like green AI, responsible AI. And given that sustainability is something that we all need to be thinking about, even more so since the topic also contains forests and wildlife, and I think we'll try to spend some time on that. So before we begin, maybe I'll have Souvik give a quick introduction about himself and his company, and then we'll dive in to the agri theme of things. Souvik.
Sure. Thanks. Morning, everybody. This is a nice forum and platform to really talk about AI and ML. I think AI and ML is still evolving, and we started our journey in early 2020, just around the pandemic time, and we started our innovation lab in 21 first quarter, and we started with prototypes of AI, mostly to understand like how it will behave in terms of solving the problem. I have spent quite a bit of time in fintech. They are very matured and etc. But similar kind of approach will not work when we are talking about agriculture. Why we decided agriculture? Because we wanted to bring the change for the big social context or the reason. And we know agriculture needs a lot of attention in terms of how we can help the farmers. There are a lot of initiatives that have been taken up by the government, and so that's why we have chosen not to be motivated by the technology, but how we can solve the current problem. And where we stand today, demand versus supply, it's really lacking. And while we are thinking of agri-tech as a solution, the important thing or the people of the agriculture ecosystem are the farmers. So while developing a solution, we have to be very cautious about that. We don't want them to forget farming and getting into tech savvy. That's a very, very important thing. Otherwise, the original motto will be lost. And that is where we wanted to think, how easy can it be? We should take up all the challenges to solve the problem. And how we can reach out to them. And, while talking, it's keep coming up like the connectedness and the timeliness are the key. And that's one of the things that's been really lacking. While I have been participating few forums from specific to agri sector, the logistics, the storage, timeliness, this has been a challenge in India. So that's where we realize that if we can rely on, say, very simple edge device like smartphones. Today, even if we are talking about rural, statistics says about 67% of the people, they are having the smart mobile. So that means we assume that the internets are reaching to every corner of the India slowly. So that means we all know that how to take pictures, right? It's simple. We know how to take selfie and etc. So same way, if we take a picture of my working premises, here I'm talking about the farmers, if that can be easily reached out to us and we analyze it immediately, all the complex algorithms with the usage of the complex algorithms and etc. And if we can give the remediation, the early remediation, that really will help. Today, another problem, like we are implementing one solution in Thailand. The one challenge for them is, especially from the contract farming perspective, they don't have enough agronomists. And that's a big challenge. And if there is no personal touch, there is no relationship, there is language barrier, no technology is going to solve or help the whole social ecosystem. So those are the challenges. Initially, we started with pilots. Another thing is like reaching out to everybody in the corner, and especially like when you talk about application, mobile means we are talking about application. So how do we really reach out to everybody? That's one of the key challenge, and that is where we alone as a tech company, we cannot solve this problem. We need partners here. We need a huge ecosystem here. It is government, it is some private sectors who are directly associated with the agriculture sector. We have started working with them and first it's in a prototype model. We are gathering data. We are seeing the accuracy aspects of it, checking what the kind of performance it is giving, or in terms of the data analytics, because end of the day everything is data, right? Like we are talking about image, but we are breaking those images into some numbers which makes no sense, and that is where we really play a major role, and that's what we are doing, and we are seeing some game changer in that area, and we really see that it can help. So initially in our journey, we started straightway with disease detection, early disease detection. Then, when we started, we didn't have any SMEs. And in this area, SMEs are the key player. It's not about just technology, it's about understanding that data and how we can correlate that data into the analysis of like what it interprets, so that we can bring in that, the automatic decision and things like that. So once we started doing that, then the whole disease detection changed into the growth of the plant. So starting from the germination of the seed is where it starts. So before then we realized that it's not a germination of the seed. It's actually started from the quality of the seeds. What is the impurity? What is the kind of quality of the seed? How can we measure it? Is it just by dimension or the size or whatever it is? All those informations coming into picture. So like today when we are talking about plant growth itself, it has got a lot of factors that we need to do or take into consideration. We need to identify plants. We need to identify whether it's monocot or dicot. We need to identify the BBCH calculation at every stage of the plants. Then it comes to like whether it is actually viral disease or whether it is infested by the pest, at what life cycle they are in. All these identification then ultimately justifies what remediation that you are providing. So yeah, it's a very exciting journey for us. I believe with the maturity that AI has today, we can solve this current challenges. And the most important thing, as the other panelists are talking about, a lot of other challenges are coming where travel may not be that feasible, right? Reaching out to labs and all this may not be that economical. So this kind of solutions can really help us. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think excellent points, and I think the bit about partnerships is extremely crucial, and as was also mentioned by one of the other panel speakers in the context of Telangana. Incidentally, I operate from Hyderabad and work very closely with the Telangana government, and the agriculture data exchange platform is an excellent opportunity for public data sets to be put out and whole lot of information that's available for innovators. At the same time, the initiatives taken by governments such as those are extremely crucial, especially for social sectors. And innovation, for it to be deployed at scale, it's inevitable, in my opinion, that government plays a very strong role. So thanks for bringing it up and also describing some of the applications. Now I'll switch to Aakash here. Quick introduction, Aakash, and also in the context of forests and wildlife monitoring, an area there you've been involved. Tell us about the kind of opportunities that you've seen, at least in the context of your involvement, but also more so in the context of the challenges that you have encountered as you entered into that space.
Thanks, Praveen. So I'll just start from what one of the previous panelists had said about, is when AI/ML is being used, we are automating a lot of our processes. But in a country where about 8 billion population, majority of which is young, how does, from an ethical point of view, how much does that automation matter, right? So when I was in the financial industry, a lot of our automation involves automating stuff like gathering information from forms, right? But there is a bigger kind of a play out here, like for example, mental health, right? Mental health is not reached out to people in the lower segment, right? But ChatGPT and all those innovation that is coming up can allow us to reach out to those people at a very cheaper rate. So for this, we are basically a data science startup as well as in computer vision. So for us, when we were working on this problem statement, we reached out to a number of conservationists. Now, these conservationists have been working about like their entire life in supporting forests and the efforts towards it. And it's about, I think we reached out to more than 60 to 70 people. We spoke with them. We were on the ground in the sanctuary, spent some time with the field officers out there as well as the policy makers out there. And they have that kind of stuff, okay, they want to make that change. They are very passionate about it. And as you can realize, like temperature is changing, climate change is taking place. forests are the place which are like carbon sinks. Whether they are like Bombay has the largest forest sanctuary within a city area, which is the Sanjay Gandhi National Park. It's a small place but very dense with I think about 80 leopards out there, which makes it a very high density kind of a population. I was at Amrabad Sanctuary in Telangana, which is the second largest tiger sanctuary in India, and about 40 leopards, 40 tigers, 44 tigers across 2,000 square kilometer of area. That's about 100 kilometers square feet for one tiger, right? This actually creates a good thing, a good habitat for a tiger because it has a lot of space to live in. But it also creates a problem statement for the forest officials who have to man these regions, right? You physically banning 2,500 square kilometers is where AI can come in, right? We can look at Earth observation data, look at camera traps over there, which provide that kind of insight, ground level as well as high level insights, which we can then flow back to not only the field officers, give them actionable insights, but also reach out to the policymakers out there. Right? So actually, I think Aranya Bhavan is just behind, Aranya Bhavan, which is the head secretariat for the forest department, is just behind Lemon Tree. So last night I was just taking a round of this place and I saw it was there. So people sitting over there can actually look at dashboards which tell them the things, the actual number of sambas or chittals on the ground in the field office. Right? It can identify their whether they are sick, have they been hurt, right? What is their age? What is their life cycle? So these kind of inputs, not only it's known because like field office, there are field officers and there are higher level officers, IFS and all that kind of a hierarchy is there. Now field officers are the people on the ground. They know because they are taking the rounds of the forest, they are going, collecting camera traps, collecting pellets. Pellets is a way how they do surveys and count the number of animals. Now, they are doing that, and they know, they have that kind of a knowledge base. Okay, I will see this kind of animal, this is their behavior, right? But this information, what is the frequency with which it reaches to the higher officials at Aranya Bhavan? Right? It's probably a annual kind of a cycle for them, right? What we can do is, that's where AI comes in, that's where AI brings up that kind of a fast automation for them to get those insights daily, on a daily basis, and take actions, right? So this kind of a real-time insight is what we are looking for. And when you look at, maybe looking at satellite imagery, looking at other kind of alternate data that is out there, that's where we can build our kind of a kind of very useful stuff or a useful database which can be leveraged. So, yeah.
Aakash, thanks for that. And one of the threads that I see, or a pattern that I see between what Souvik you mentioned and Aakash, what you mentioned is the importance of AI to be coupled with the subject matter experts. They play a crucial role. And I remember one of the conversations, in full disclaimer, Aakash and I were working together with the forest department. And we've seen the pushback in terms of is the intent of AI to replace subject matter experts. And that's always the pushback that we will receive. And it's important to outline and clearly underline the need of us to explain that AI, or any form of technology for that matter, is to augment what subject matter experts bring. And it's really the collective power of the human and AI that can help solve these problems. And it's evidenced through what Souvik and Aakash have mentioned. I'll just switch gears and sort of look at the bit about designing AI solutions, keeping the end user in mind, which is really what I was saying in the context of human-centered design. Souvik, your experiences in terms of, let's say, even the product design itself, or even the kind of business models that you have dabbled with, which have made you feel that it helps reduce the barrier for AI adoption, or at least the adoption of AI-based technologies. And Aakash, after this, you may also want to comment on it.
Yeah, as I said, that we are talking about majorly the farmers. So it's not just only in India. I was listening to even somebody from Finland saying the same thing. Yes, IoT is doing a lot of stuff, but when it comes to implementation, when it comes to adopting the technologies, that's always been a challenge. And I think it's rightly so. I mean, we should not bring the disruption to disrupt the whole ecosystem of the farming. The purpose of this is to enable better way of farming, because one of the major challenges that we see in India, and which is very sad, like a lot of, the vegetation or something, today's farmers, they don't want to really execute it, because after investing the money and etc., they are not getting enough yield. Rather, they are running into loss, and which doesn't make sense. Even if they're growing it, they are growing it only for themselves in a very small portion of it. And that's where it's losing its essence. That's where, those synthetic foods and all those things are coming into picture. So the most critical thing is that how we can reach out to each and every people who doesn't need to be tech savvy, and what is the easiest way to help them or reach out to them. So what, as I said, like mobile is being a very good edge device. As I said, in rural, a majority of the people today's time, they are carrying the mobile. And the solution what we are developing, we always say that it is very uncontrolled in terms of when we are talking about the solutioning. Uncontrolled means it's outside, you take picture and there is no expertise required. We are not expecting farmers to capture images with a specific color or keeping the particular aperture in mind, or the the light in focus and etc. We have to negate all those things. We cannot bring those boundaries to say that only then the solution is going to work. And that's the key challenge for us. And that is where when we went back to the drawing board and we were doing a lot of experiments, we actually developed our own algorithm, classic image processing mechanism. And we are actually pursuing the patent for that as well. And we are also comparing. I mean, we don't want to be biased, because our main key thing is we don't want to be driven by technology. We are motivated by how we want to solve the problem, today's problem. And that is where we are comparing what we are developing or what is currently available as existing models, or what we call it transfer learning and etc. And we are tweaking it, we are seeing it, that what's happening. And it's a very exciting journey, I would say, because it took almost about 7 months for us to build the first productionized model. And it was for the disease called yellow rust, identifying the yellow rust. We tried first with the wheat, and it gave us almost like 97% of accuracy. And while designing our own algorithm, and we go back to the basic fundamental challenges, like the noise reduction of background and all those things. It's like what it makes us realize is that our job is to take the hardest part of solving the problem, so that the larger community gets benefited, how easily it can be adopted. So today we are talking about mobile. We thought about drone as well. It's possible. It's the similar way we can do that. But again, like, who is going to fly the drone? That needs another expertise or something. And then bringing in the drone, who is going to buy for it? If I simply suggest that somebody needs to buy the drone, I mean, it won't happen. So government probably has to step forward. So that is where we realize that maybe you start with a small, and slowly if we see that there is a success coming in. And the another important thing is the adoption to any change. If it is not involving the human being, then it's not going to be a successful. We don't want to change everything completely disruptive. So what we are today, we are suggesting that it has to be aligned with what they had been doing, and slowly infusing those changes so that they don't even realize, but they are getting benefited over the journey. So that's been our whole objective so far.
Great. Thank you, Souvik.
Yeah,
Aakash?
Praveen and Souvik, we have just 5 minutes. We have to wrap up fast.
Aakash, quick
Over to you,
comments.
Aakash. Yeah.
So actually, so we think like most of us have started during the pandemic. So like we are the children of the pandemics. So this thing is basically makes us that there's a kind of a paradigm shift which is taking place, where people who were reluctant to do a few things, be like say virtual meetings and everything, they are trying to adopt it. As such, even at the ground level, a lot of people have started like working from home or trying to get other things done. One thing I would like to highlight here is that AI it's basically, it requires data. And without data, it cannot do anything, right? For data sets in India, especially in the forestry region, are not that easily available, right? If you look at the international markets or other places, it's very openly available data sets are there. May it be from the African continents, North America, Southeast Asia, Vietnam, China, or Europe. There are a lot of data sets available, right? Which helps the conservationists over there because they are openly available. People can take it and then start working on top of it and build products. For some reason, the number of data sets that come from India is less, right? Which are openly available. There's a lot of data being generated, but it is not openly available to people out there. While being a for-profit, we look at how we can build proprietary services. A lot of things that are coming up is because like of open source technology that is there, right? Open source, basically it's like we are like, sometimes we talk that we are standing on the shoulders of giants out there, right? How do you create such data sets in India? I'll give you a number over here, Praveen. Like, basically, if you look at there is a very famous data set, which is basically takes all camera trap data, which is openly available, and publishes it. It's about more than 1 million images which are there across 5,000 categories of wildlife, animal species. But the part which comes from the Indian subcontinent is less than 5 or 4% of it. Right? So that actually creates a bias for models which are created on this data, because they cannot understand what is there in the Indian subcontinent. And that actually adds a kind of an inefficiency, because a lot of people are just reusing the model. Right? There's a use model, they're reusing it. Now when you reuse it, there's an inefficiency because it cannot capture the data. It doesn't understand the Indian subcontinent. Right? We have been trying to say, because this is a policy level, it is actually at the central, forest are considered central subject and later the state subject. So this is a policy matter. There might be some kind of an understanding, because these are august bodies, they have certain thought process behind them before they have created this policy. So there might be some reasons for that. But we should really relook at it and see what changes can be done. Maybe the initiative that Telangana is doing, where they're trying to create a data set, a high-level data set, high-frequency data sets. So that can actually improve and create the kind of an environment where we can create kind of a platform or more apps out there, in a sense. Thank you.
All right, Aakash, thank you. I wish we had more time to discuss. Clearly, there's a lot of exciting things that are happening in both these sectors, and they are very important for the reasons that we've already discussed. A quick summary for everybody. We've talked about the importance of AI and the humans augmenting each other, the importance of subject matter experts, and whosoever is in the room is developing AI-based technologies. Keep the end user in mind, the human-centered design in terms of your product development. We've really not been able to touch upon the responsible AI considerations. Souvik touched upon it in terms of accuracies, but explainability is extremely important, in the context of the users, and that sort of helps build trust. But then, it's also important to understand how sustainably these algorithms are being built are you consuming more computational resources than what is necessary? And it's important to have those considerations in mind. And I'm sure all of us are around for the break. Please do come and chat with us. And again, congratulations to both of you doing some really amazing work. Thank you. Thank you all.